In a world where, we've been blessed with a whole lot of things like the radio, things like the internet, things like the so-called artificial intelligence, things that ordinarily should bind us together. In a world where we've been blessed with things like the aeroplane and the telephones we get to use, the social media and the likes of this, we find ourselves still more divided than we think we aren't, and at the same time, as close as we think we are, at the same time, not also being that. So these dichotomies are just like scattered here and there. They take different forms and different shapes in different facets of life and on different fronts. It is to such we look at today. The other day, I was just thinking about how far we have come in terms of our advancement in the dissemination of information and how information get to travel so fast as well as slow also in certain places. I was just rambling my head around the concept of misinformation, disinformation, and information itself, and the deceit that has become the reality of most media houses across our world today. What to report on, what not to report on, what to talk about, and what not to talk about. This leaves me thinking, and why was I thinking about this? I was thinking about this in relation to the Middle Ages, the so-called Middle Ages. I don't know how many Middle Ages we'll come to have in the long run, because just as we have the Middle Age at the Middle Ages at the point in time, I don't know if there's ever going to be another Middle, because we talk about the ancient time, the Middle Ages, and then the contemporary time and the modern time. What era awaits us in the future, I don't know. But for what that is, I was thinking about how, Aristotle was discovered in the West, and how the likes of Thomas Aquinas delved into such realities and tried to see what they could do with the philosophies that was coming from, the Arabic world and the the so-called this thing Greek world, as they had it at that particular time, and the immense importance such discovery and translations of the works of Aristotle was for not just Thomas Aquinas, also for the many philosophers that tend to look at those works at such point in time, as well as other works that have been discovered by other guys across different epochs and for different reasons. Why was I thinking about this also to keep the train of thought moving? I was thinking about this in relation to our time. There's Kindle, there are different forms of audiobooks, there are different forms of visual reading. There's definitely the printed form, the wonder of the pages, how one can get to travel to different places and at the same time still get to sit one place. Such wonder. We've had great inventions that have cut across our different political, geopolitical, and geological expressions and positionings across the world. And yet, I still feel strongly deep within my soul that we have not been able to harness the wonder, that is this tool, the wonder of these inventions, the wonder of creation, the wonder of cosmopolitanism, the wonder of being cosmopolitan. Because believe it or not, my brothers and sisters, friends and family, we are becoming more cosmopolitan than our ancestors. Never in the history of the world have people cut across different geographical positionings, met each other on different places, on different planes, on different boards, on different metros, on different parks, in different fields of life than we have experienced in our time today. This leaves me to ask the question: How well are we harnessing our God given talents? Not so much for our ancestors who were not bestowed nor blessed with the gift of being cosmopolitan, the gift of meeting more strangers turn friends, or more strangers turn acquaintance, or just more strangers being strangers in their life. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about my brothers. I'm talking about my sisters. I'm talking about your family members who we might want to say are contemporaries, family members and friends who were born in recent times, give it 40, 50 years ago, down up until those just being born in recent times. What are we doing with this gift of being able to get a ticket, get into a bus, be it Flix, be it whatever bus you're going with, be it Marco Polo, just get in with every immigration laws being met and travel to a new place. Summer is coming to a close in some places, anyways. And yet, people are still traveling. People are still having what they call summer breaks. People are still having vacations and the likes of that. But how has this vacation touched you? How has it allowed you to think outside the box? How has it allowed you to really look at yourself and look at your life and say to yourself, you know what? I think we are more similar than we are different. I think we are more close to each other than we want to accept and want to believe and want to imagine. Because what is there if not the fact that we are brothers and sisters cut off from the same loins, be it from an evolutionary standpoint or the creationist story or whatever stories you have down there in the grand scale of things. If you need a particular blood type, and it happens to be a guy from Africa whose blood matches with yours, my brother, my sister, you better take it, or you look somewhere else, but still, you're still going to get same blood type. You need a kidney, and it matches with somebody from Asia, and the person is willing, without pressure, without force, to get to donate such kidney to you. You better take it or risk your life. These are the things at the core of all our confusions and core of all our racist, xenophobic ideas, and the things that separate us, things, according to D.K. Chukwumeli, the things that can bind us as well as separate us, because the wall and the bridge indeed are both in the heart. It is to these things we get to look at today. It is to these things we want to talk about. How similar are we? It's very simple. You cry, I cry. You weep, I weep. You get sad, I get sad. You die, I die. Our family members get to die. We also get to die. We fall sick, they fall sick. You fall sick. You go hungry. You know the tensions that come with sexual urge and the anxiety that follows such expectation not met, and the craziness that come all with it. You know what hunger can do to a human person. You know what drugs can do when it's gone to the human system and alters the biological ways of looking at things. You know what it means for addictions to take your life. I know what it means also to be addicted to different things. You know vices, I know vices. You know virtues, I know virtues. We try to cultivate this. We battle against this day in, day out. And we know what all of this actually do to us. It makes us get to know that we are more human and more closely aligned to each other than we want to accept, that we want to believe. Beyond the color of skin, the geography of nativity, beyond these places and these things that get to tell us that we are more different and similar, beyond all of this, we look at ourselves and tell ourselves, we're family. We look at ourselves and tell ourselves, indeed, that we are not alone. We look at ourselves and tell ourselves that we are of the human race. And being human has been the oldest of cultures. Being human has been the oldest of life pattern. The evolutionary traits that have followed such, notwithstanding, the basics, at the core of it all, we remain the same, with our flaws and our limitations and our shortcomings and all you can think of in between. These things are the things that bind us together. These things are the things that we must look when indeed we try to tell ourselves that we're alone in this world. Whenever you get to think you're alone in the world, you aren't alone. There's many persons going through almost the same challenges you are going through as a man, as a woman, as a teenager, as a child. This is not me belittling your experience. This is not me saying your experience is not worth the time. This is me saying, in the grand scheme, in the grand scale of things, life plays out, and Shakespeare will get to say, to be or not to be, that is the question. That is the question. To look at life squarely and look at it deep within and say, out of the night that covers me, dark as the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatsoever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced or cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but I'm bowed. Beyond the shadow, this place looms but the horror of the shades. In the end, getting to say you, I am the captain of my ship. I am the master of my own fate. Getting to say this and tell ourselves, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or whether the doer of deeds could have done them better. But telling ourselves that indeed it is actually the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who errs, who comes short again and again, because in the long run, there's no effort without errors and shortcomings. That man who actually strives to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who in the end, if he succeeds, knows the triumph of high achievement, and if he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know success nor defeat. To such a man, we must tell ourselves, to such a man who goes about his daily chores, who goes about his daily tasks, knowing fully well that to be, rather than to imagine what was to be, is actually the first mark of meeting existence. Meeting existence on the place where we are supposed to meet it. And like Ben Okri will get to say, it is the realization and the humility we get to come to meet reality at its gates that prevent us from being crashing, from being crushed when we enter such cities. It is with this assurance we get to tell ourselves, every other thing might have been sorted out in life, but what remains still not sorted out actually is the act of living itself. Every other thing has been sorted out, but we are the people who have refused to actually be who we're supposed to be. Tell a thief he's a thief and he tells you he's not a thief. Tell him he's not a thief and he tells you maybe he doesn't tell you he's not a thief, but he doesn't accept that he actually is a good man. Tell a corrupt politician that he's corrupt and he becomes angry with you. Call him a good man even, he still shies away from such. Call a student a lazy student, and you see all hell get loose. Call a trans woman, and whatever the gender becomes, you get to see the problem there. Call her a woman, she refuses. Call her a man, she refuses. Call her a trans woman or a trans man, and then you see the problem that comes up there. We live in a time where we are petting and patting truths. call a churchman out who is peddling his life in corruption and deceitful sermons and the likes of that, and you get to see how you'll be told to not touch the Lord's anointed and do nothing to harm the prophet. We live in self-denial, my people. We live in self-denial, my brothers and sisters. We are increasingly denying what we ought to accept as our reality. It makes us make the claim that indeed man is the only animal that has refused to be the animal such was meant to be. We go around putting on good clothes, wearing on ties and putting on Ankara and Danshaki and wearing on different stuff, Babariga, Bubas, you name them. And yet, deep within our souls, deep within our loins, we know the things that keep us back. We know the chains that hold us back, or at least we'll suppress them with all manner of pleasures and self-aggrandizement and merchandise that we don't really need. We've been told to have more will give us happiness. We've been told to have more will give us peace. But then we've gone to the markets and have only discovered that we can only buy what we are being sold and we can only keep what we find. And yet we are told to continually buy and buy and buy and buy. Because you know what? That is where we're going to find our peace. That is where we're going to find satisfaction. But that is not the reality. The reality lays in the fact that politics have become a thing we don't know, a thing that have so much been about profits and gains and interests than have actually been about politics. What is politics, my dear brothers and sisters, my friends, and the next man, the next woman across the other end? Politics, politics. Maybe we leave that for another day. But in a nutshell, there's barely anything that we can do in this world that we can actually do without the aid and the help of politics. The almighty US is at the brink of only God knows. The US, so-called the champions of democracy, the guys at the forefronts of the affairs of the universe, pointing out to every other person how to go, morality police, to a multitude of people, more than 7,000, more than 7 billion people on earth. A country sitting down there in its own pride, telling itself, we need to tell the world what to do and how to go about this. Anybody who doesn't want to listen, get crushed, get crumbled. I watch the political terrain and I ask myself, what is the difference between these and the politics that get to happen in my place? Probably the costumes are used differently. Because I'm beginning to think day by day that it's been starved of ideology and the likes of that. In the name of women's rights and rights to their body, babies are killed every day. In the name of granting women freedom to do whatever they want to do with their body, women are being pressured to look in a certain way, to have certain body physique, and to have certain hair attachment attached to them and certain medications as foundations to the foundation that was supposed to bring about the dimples in their skin. Day by day, people are told, do anything you want. Don't try at all. Just give up. You cannot try more than Odysseus. You cannot go more than that guy, a guy that had to stand up to Poseidon, and Poseidon had to tell him, without the gods, humans are useless, helpless, and the likes of that. You've been told, do as you want. You've been told you can express yourself in whatsoever ways. You've been told you can take as many pills as possible. What does this pill do to your body as a woman? For something to go as far as preventing a biological cause down your skin. down in your body system? What does it do to you? What does it become? What have we become as a people? These are many more the questions we're asking ourselves. As we increasingly become cosmopolitan, how can we forge ahead? How can we move forward, further, forging a course that will propel us with the right force towards a right course, that will see to it that we get to cause a whole lot of things to come to be, things that align with goodness, things that align with kindness. How sad are we becoming? How annoyed are we becoming as a people? How angry are we becoming as a generation? How sorrowful are we becoming? How unhappy are we as people? What is the way forward, my people? What is the way forward, my brothers and sisters? That is what we've been asking ourselves here. Because indeed, we want to know what it really takes to be human, living in our time, harnessing the goods of a time like ours, an age like our own. We want to know. Maybe you know, maybe you want to tell us. It is this concern we are looking at today. How well can we do as a people down this particular terrain? We must come together beyond religious affiliations, beyond ideological standpoint, and tell ourselves, the world is to be safe. The world needs to be protected. The world is taking a new order. There's a reshuffling of the classes and those who know what to do without thinking of ethical stands and moral standpoints are doing everything it takes to make sure that there would be amongst those to be counted in the long run when the time comes for that reshuffling to happen. People are investing in different things. People of like minds for their own selfish interests, as well as for the good of humanity. Where are we going to key in? We are humans. We live in relation to the environment. When the mines in Congo are being exploited and deep gorges and deep man-made valleys are being erected here and there, and these pits get to stay there for years and cause havoc to neighboring communities and the likes of that, just to give us iPhones and lithium batteries and all we can think about. We should also ask ourselves, where is the origin of the product we are getting? When you see a piece of orange in the supermarket, and then you ask yourself, I can pay for this with a couple of dollars and the likes of that. Maybe some euros, maybe some pounds, maybe some yen, maybe some rand, maybe some naira, maybe some, Canadian dollars or Australian dollars, you name it. Maybe some Polish zlotys. Maybe you should also stop and ask yourself, where is the origin of this particular plant I have here? What are the things that have gone into this and out of this? What workforce has been in place to see to it that we get this? Do they pay well? Are workers exploited? How can things be better done? We live in an age of, high powering plants and soaring levels of technologies that tend to do a whole lot of things that tend to wow our minds. Have we stopped to ask ourselves if we're losing out on critical thinking and then just teaching machines how to actually learn how to do things for us? And if we do so, just like the Jewish historian Yuval will get to ask, don't summon a power you cannot control. Don't summon a power you cannot control. Don't summon a power you cannot tame. What are we doing? What are we allowing? It is said that injustice somewhere, it's a threat to justice everywhere. And that bad things happen because good people keep quiet. How can we talk about the recent happenings in our different countries? There are a lot of persons already doing them, sharing them across different platforms. A platform like TikTok, a fast place of disseminating information, has come under serious attack. Telegram also, with its founder facing some court orders and a possible, incarceration for over 2 decades? Or is it the founder of WikiLeaks and his recent acquittal from the many charges leveled against him and what he has to give up or what he has already given up in trying to see to it that he regains freedom and the likes of that? So that it makes it easy for us to get to say, freedom of speech is a thing, the near it's a thing possible. But freedom of that speech is a thing we cannot really guarantee. A whole lot of persons are coming out to say a whole lot of things. But are we listening or are we all trying to speak? Can we listen to each other? Can we listen to one another? Can we try to understand the standpoint of the other person? Can we climb on top of their skin and walk through their perspective and look at how they perceive things from their own perspective and get to say, you know what? I think I understand you now. I think I understand you now, my sister. I think I know where you're coming from and I think I know what your situation was. I think I know these things now. I tell you right. I understand you better. Because myself also make mistakes. You make mistakes. I think we can work together because we are more similar than different. I don't want to be a saint. A saint in the whole self-righteousness of trying to be a saint. I want to be a saint in the real sense of the word. A saint who tries with the past record of too many sins and too many mistakes, who want to become a better person. Not because of the fear of hell or the gain of heaven, but being good is good. And being bad is just bad. There are no two ways about these things. It is to such a life I want each and every one of us to look at the possibility of living. A possibility where we can tell ourselves, I want to change. I want to get better. I want to make progress. I want to be a better person. I think I can become a better person. I think you too can become a better person. I think we all can become better people. And that we should do. I think we can cooperate more now than in times past. I think beyond the benefits of wars and the revenue that comes from charity aids and clearing of illegal funds and dirty money from charity organizations and war and the likes of that, purchase of arms and armored tanks and what have you, we can begin to look at ways of making peace with ourselves so that we reduce our spending. We spend more than we should be spending. We spend too much on arms. We spend stupendiously so on arms. We shouldn't be doing that. We spend too much on our defense systems, on our security system. And I know why. Don't get me wrong. I am not an idealist who just lives in his head and his head alone, masturbating to the sound of his voice. No. I am a human being and I know the realities of our current times. I know firsthand experience what kidnapping could look like. I know what it means to be arrested. I know what it means to be silenced and told to keep quiet and being confused also. I know what it means to be blackmailed. I know what it means to be terrorized. I know what it means to be ambushed and to be robbed and to be insecure. I know all of this. But I am saying, if we just give up and say, the war is never going to know peace because there are too many nuclear weapons here and there are too many guys building things here and there, because we've allowed such to hold sway. People are dying every day in the world, and most of them are not dying from natural causes. Today, I watched the news and I saw the recent attacks by Israel on the border and the conflicts between Israel and Palestine. And I saw the UN saying, they are giving warnings about, Israel's talk about evacuation and the likes of that. For how long are we going to be this hypocritical? For how long are we going to call a spade a spade? It was the same thing that was happening in Rwanda. It was never called a genocide. It was never called anything it was supposed to be called. Same thing that happened in Biafra, all because of political leanings and the likes of that. It is the same thing that is happening in Congo. It is the same thing that is happening in Sudan. These places have known no peace. What about Syria? What about the Middle East? What about Ukraine? What about all these atrocities meted out? All these atrocities and all these confusions and all these problems and all these levels of exploitation and all that, it is because we have refused to be united as we ought to be. We've refused to see the similarities in ourselves, and we've only counted on the differences. And if you look at the differences, they are so thin that we've made them to look like planks. And then we've made our similarities to be so thin, thinner than threads. It is a sad reality, and we are going to die under our own knives. Not the knife of Nietzsche when he declared that God is dead, no, and he bled under our own knives. Maybe also that is what we can ascribe to ourselves. We have killed peace. We have killed peace, such a wonderful phenomenon. We have killed peace. We have killed oneness. We've divided ourselves. We have struck off unity from our lives and our existence. And indeed, we as a people allow such to bleed under our own knives. Are we not then to call ourselves gods? Are we not then to ascribe ourselves the authority of those who tend to take such actions? For what a mighty thing we have sacrificed, for what a mighty thing we've let go. Peace we have sacrificed for financial gains, things that get to change over time. In times past, gold was the core stuff of currencies being used. Today, times are changing, and those who saved in this probably are not here to tell the story. Around the world, coins are still being used. People are stuffing stuff and stocking things in the stock market and the likes of that, exploiting their workers and all that. To what end, my people? If we continue like this, we have more prostitutes. If we continue like this, we have more robbers. If we continue like this, we will have more thieves and we have more corrupt people, because corrupt environment doesn't breed saints. It is more difficult to be a saint in a corrupt environment than it is to be in a sane environment. We have all gone insane. We've all let ourselves sad. We've all let ourselves angry. We've all let ourselves down the drain. We've all allowed ourselves to die. And as we die, we take with us others also. We don't go down alone, just like a man drowning. You and I, my brother, you and I, my sister, can come together. We can actually come close and tell ourselves that going forward into the future, a future where we are going to live, a future where we are going to be alive, these are the things we want to do. And we can do that. We have the strength, though the strength doesn't necessarily ascribe or translate to power. But we can start early and begin to look at and envisage the world we want to live in, the type of universe we want to be alive in. Not the one sold to us by our ancestors, because not everything that comes down to every age is to be accepted. Things get to change. That is why the sayings of Fortin Shin remains evergreen in my head. The church is not married to a particular age. If the church gets married to a particular age, she becomes divorced to the next age, and thereby causing a lacuna and a discordance in the affairs of how things are meant to be. More than ever, we need humanity. More than ever, we need ourselves. We need tenderness. We need love. We need kindness. We need peace. We need progress. We need to see through it that, ourselves get to look at our lives from the perspective we ought to look at them. That ourselves get to look at our lives and all we can look at from the perspective we must look at them from. We must tell ourselves that our political class are either up to no good or up to selfish interests or up to just our own good, against the good of the next man across the border, against the good of the next woman across the continent. You don't want to live in such a life. You don't want to live your life constantly being afraid of immigrants coming to your country and distorting your culture and the likes of that. You want people to travel freely and come for vacations and meet people and fall in love and not feel threatened that they're coming to take your jobs and the likes of that, as most persons get threatened. You don't want to live in a world full of racist ideas and racist ideologies and you yourself being a racist, because you find yourself in another country one day and you just know how vulnerable you can be and how sad such reality can be. And then you begin to look at the folly and the folly of your life, because indeed it matters what we think, it matters who we are and what we become. I am Bobby Nemeka, your host for today. Until we meet again on the other side, until we get to see ourselves again, until we get to look at our lives again from different perspective and the likes of that. May we all try not to be the coward of the county.